And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with the Game Boy Geek.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek. Start your engines. We are going to be racing today all around the track of Monaco in Formula One cars, or we could be street racing in these little lowriders hitting up some nitro. We're going to be screeching our tires, running around the track in a classic Formula D here. Asmodee has this in the US here, and it's 2 to 10 players, takes 60 minutes. Let's see if running around the track and this little press your luck and a lot of rolling and moving is interesting enough and has enough bite to it that gives it the amount of recognition that it has today. Let's take a look. Man, this board is beautiful. It's actually 2 separate boards that you put together. It's so big I can barely even fit the whole thing on camera, but you can really see how gorgeous the artwork is, the detail, the colors, and we're coming up on pole position here, looking at all the different cars that are ready to start the race. And there you have it. It's just a gorgeous board. Give you a little closer update on what these look like. There's 2 different ways to play the game, basic and advanced. I'm going to show you the basic first and then the advanced. Basic, we start here with 18 general wear points. And we have a cool little gearbox here that allows you to go from first all the way to 6th gear. And in the base game, you don't necessarily have to put a guy here. He doesn't really do much, except maybe you could put him there to remember what color you are. And let's show you how a turn works. Each round, the player who's in first, or the furthest away, goes first, and so on and so forth all the way back down. And randomly, the black die was rolled to see in what order people start here. And then the first turn's a little different where you roll this black die. Depending on what comes up, you'll do different things. For example, if you roll a 1, you pretty much stall and you can't go this turn. Ouch. And then next turn you can roll as normal. If you roll anything between a 2 or a 16, you get to go normally. And everyone starts in first gear. And on our gearbox, as you can remember, first gear shows me yellow, and it shows me that I can play, it basically goes from 1 to 2, and that's the yellow die. So essentially, I'll be in first gear, and I'll roll this, and it's the top number on the yellow die. I would move 1, so if I was green, I would move 1 like that. Now on your first roll, if you roll anything between a 17 and a 20, you get to immediately move 4 spots, which is faster than anybody else can do, and you can still shift it in second gear next round. And so that's sort of the first turn. So from now on, I'm just going to use 1 card to show you pretty much how turns work. But here you see in the red, anytime you see a red, it's a corner, and you have to pretty much end your turn in one of those corners a certain amount of times. This shows you how many times you have to end your turn there. This shows you 7 is the most amount of spaces in that turn, and 3 is the least amount of spaces in that turn. So when it's your turn, you can either go with the gear that you're in, or you can go up or down 1 gear pretty much for free without any penalty. So I'm in first gear now. I could go right up to gear 2 for free. But if I wanted to skip gear 2 and go up to gear 3, I would lose 1 wear point because I skipped a gear. You can skip all the way from 1st to 5th. You can just never skip from the biggest gear to the smallest gear. If I were to shifting to 5th from 1st, I would be skipping 1, 2, 3 gears, so I would lose 3 wear points. And you have 18 total, and if you get to 0, pretty much you blow up and you're dead. So let's say I just skipped a gear, I went to the red, I roll the red die that goes from 4 to 8. So here I'd roll this, 8. Okay, so I am here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So as you can see, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when you get here, it shows you which arrows, which ways you can go. So here I can go straight or right. 6. Here I can go straight or right. 7. And here I have to go straight. Boom. And that's actually a pretty good roll for that turn. Now I did my 1 stop, so I'm good. If I overshot that, let's say I was dumb, I upshifted some more, and I landed here, and I never stopped there. If you only had to stop once, and you don't stop at all, you're not eliminated from the game, but you will lose 1 wear point for every space you overshot. So 1, 2, 3. In that case, I would have lost 3 more wear points. 1, 2, 3. In this case, let's say I was over here. This one, you have to stop 3 times in this hairpin turn. Now, if I just blow through this thing and don't stop at all, I've skipped at least 2 stops, and I'm immediately out of the race. You can always skip 1 stop. So if I stop there twice, and then trying to stop for my 3rd time, I overshot it. It's okay, you would just do the same thing as last turn. But if I only stopped once, the game's over on that one. So you can always skip 1 stop, but you're gonna lose some wear points. You can never skip more than 1 stop. Now in the straightaways, you have to go kind of straight. You can't just zigzag. Like I can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to try to slow myself down the straightaways. The only time you can pretty much zigzag, you can never go back to another same lane unless I am doing it to pass somebody. Now, if I end on somebody that's right near me, in this case, we're both going to roll the black danger die here. And each of us are going to roll it. If we roll a 1 through 4, we will lose a point of damage of our wear points. And the last couple ways you can lose wear points is, let's say I rolled a number that was greater than where these cars are, and I'm kind of blocked. I can't go anywhere. I would lose wear points equal to the numbers that I had to break and stop. So let's say I was supposed to end here, and I missed going 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. I would have to take down 4 wear points because I had to brake hard to stop from colliding to them. And so I would pull down a wear point for each of the spots that I was not able to advance. The last way to lose wear points here in the basic game, if I'm in 5th or 6th gear and I roll the highest number on those die, which are 20 or 30, everybody that's in 5th or 6th gear has to roll this. And if they roll 1 through 4, they lose a point. Thematically, it's like, hey, people are always checking their engines during the race, and at this point in time, that was the time that they checked. And that's how you lose wear points. And obviously, if I lose all my wear points, I'm out of the game. And the first person across the finish line is the winner. Now you can play 1 or 2 laps, things like that. If you play 2 laps, you can actually go into the pit stop here and regain all your wear points. But you can play 1 or 2 laps. We typically play 1, but I guess you could set up a cool tournament where you're doing longer races. Let's look at the advanced game. Okay, here's the advanced game. This essentially just got flipped over, and now we start with the actual amount of wear points in each spot of the car. So we have tires, brakes, gearbox, body, basically the chassis, engine, and road handling. So here we have the different amounts. Now, the way that this really works differently is overshooting. Before we just took general wear points down. For every thing that you overshoot, you take your tires down. So if I overshot by 2 spots, I'm going to take my tires down 2 spots. If I lose my last tire, essentially, as long as I only overshot it by 1, I spin out. I do basically have to, start there in gear 1 the next time. But if I go over more than 1 spot when I have no tires, I'm eliminated from the race. Braking can be used just like before, where if I want to stop short 1 spot, again, I could maybe like go down braking instead of taking an extra tire damage. So braking allows you to stop early. For each space you stopped early, you do that. Once this is gone, pretty much you can't use the brakes anymore. The gearbox, anytime you skip a gear, if I went from 1st to 3rd, I skipped 1 gear and I would go down. As soon as you use your entire gearbox, you can no longer skip gears. The body wear points here, anytime we were close to someone before, we rolled this die. And it used to be in the basic game, you roll 1 through 4 and you'd lose a wear point. Here you have to roll just a 1 to lose a wear point, but you have to lose it in the car body. And if you lose all your body and you get hit, you're out of the race. The engine, if you remember the base game, the 2 highest gears, if I roll a 20 or 30 on these dice, you would have to roll the wear point die, the collision die there. And if you rolled a 1 through 4, you would lose 1 regular point. Well, now you lose an engine point, and if you lose all your engine points, you blow up. The last one is road handling. Anytime one of those really bad things happens, or a collision or things like that, this gets put, a danger token gets put on that spot. And if you run over that spot, you have to roll this die again. And if you roll a 1 through 4, you lose a little bit of road handling from road debris. And if you run out of this, you explode as well. So it's a lot more advanced just because you can use different things. You can use brakes instead of tires. You have a little bit less flexibility in gearing and stuff like that. So that's pretty much how the advanced game works. And it's not all the rules. There's some extra rules. This is something you can print off of Board Game Geek. If you gear down and you skip a certain amount of gears, you don't just lose gear. You could lose some brakes or engines as well. If you hard brake to stop avoiding someone, more things happen than just once. So I'm just giving you an overview of kind of the differences between the game, but not every rule. And last but not least, if you flip the board over, we now have a street race. Beautiful board again, really cool looking. And the characters change quite a bit as well. So now you have a specific character that has specific attributes, and everyone is sort of a little bit different. So 6 tires, 3 braking, and so on and so forth. And this will be different depending on your character, and everyone gets a special ability. For example, him, anytime someone has to roll a black collision die, they have to roll it twice when they're near this guy. And certain things like that. Also, we went from the Formula 1 cars to the cool little hooked up street cars. And as you can see, we've got a nice little street car versus a stock car there, a Formula 1 car. And there's 4 little differences in parts of the track that are different for this race. And you see here, these are all like parts of the road that are bad. If you roll over those, you have to roll that black die. And if you roll between a 1 and 4, you lose a damage point. So that's just like a bad part of the track because you're on a bad street. And this is a spot where the neighbors are mad that you're racing around all loud, and if you stop in this area here, you roll the dice. Depending on what you roll, you'll lose some wear points because they're basically taking pot shots at your car. And going through the police station's fun. Whoever goes through this the fastest, they multiply whatever the gear they're in by 10. And whoever goes through this the fastest gets to add 2 wear points as they see fit. And we just have a tunnel here, so when you leave space 2, the next space is right there. So all in all, it's just a little bit a way to kind of change the map up a little bit, change some of the rules, and give you a nice, beautiful way and some new characters. Quite a bit here in this base game with a lot to play with. I'll show you some of the rest of the characters here. Also on this race here, you can use a nitrous once per game. You can, after you move, you can move as many spaces as what gear you're in. You kind of use a nitrous. Anyway, look at these guys. Julian Frogger, the white guy with dreads. Ooh, Montoya Candana with a rose. Very nice. Look at these guys. I'll just flip through them pretty quickly so you can just get a feel. Tupac, right? No, Stanley Washington. Yeah, they got some chick drivers too. Nice. Got to represent the ladies. Dimitri. So yeah, they got some cool characters here, and all of them have some special abilities. All right, well, there is Formula D. Oof. Okay, well, amazing artwork, amazing colors. I like the mechanics. I like there's a balance between luck and a little bit of strategy. The shifting the gears, the deciding how many times to stop, the push your luck mechanic, especially in the base game where you have those 18 wear points of general wear points, and you're using them to brake or mostly for the skipping the gears and overshooting is what I use them for most. You know, you have that basic game, and then you have the advanced game where you have more of a siloed actions with those things, and they create quite a different feeling of a game. We actually, when we were done, I almost always like the advanced games better, but when we were done playing both sides of these a few times, all of us were like, I don't know which one I really like better. I like the freedom and the flexibility of the just totally pushing your luck and moving down a single wear point, but then again, you know, the decisions are more interesting on the other side. So I actually like both versions quite a bit. Obviously the easy version you can play with families and people that have not played before, and it's pretty fun. And then there's so many more things, even some things I didn't mention, like the weather and things like that you can alter in the game that I didn't talk about in the overview because it was, you know, there's so many things you can do in this game. Also, flipping the board over and playing that street side just adds a whole new thing. So with the base game, between the basic, the advanced, flipping the board, the special characters, the special abilities, the nitrous, the weather, the pit stops, multiple races, the way that you can customize tournaments, I see why this game has a lore, because there's a lot here in this base game. And of course, there's a million expansions out there today with the different cars. But what did I like best about it? It was interesting. I just felt like it was a fun, like a push your luck type of thing where, I mean, the first game I played, I did explode on the last turn because I realized I either had a gamble and I was going to make it or I was going to die, and I went for it and I ended up exploding. But hey, that's the rest. It's that push your luck mechanic that's always fun for me, and to put it in the context of racing, and it brings back some of these interesting things, trying to slipstream. You know, it was just fun. It's a fun, light beer and pretzels type of game that was enjoyable. It's a pretty good game, Formula D. Check it out if you like racing, if this looks interesting to you. That's Formula D.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.